stragglers to put down the change in
Yes,
January.
exactly.
And we're gonna get started. Thanks for joining us. We might have some stragglers come in as we start, but I want to thank you guys all for coming. I also want to thank Mountain Valley Bank. They're the presenting sponsor for the Business Education Series, and they also donated their space today, which is beautiful. The other people that help make this possible are Northwest Data Services, Employers Council, and the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. So if you ever see them around town, make sure you say thank you. And then this is John Moore, who's joining us today, owner and founder of 305 Spin here in Steamboat. He's an expert in website design, and 305 Spin has been helping businesses build their online presence for over 28 years. So I really want to thank him for coming and sharing his expertise, and we have a lot to cover, so I'm gonna let him start and I can speak of that maybe.
All right, great. Yeah, it's actually 30 years this next week. We've been here, so how about that? Long time for an internet company. So we have offices here in Missouri and here in Steamboat, and we have employees now after COVID, pretty much everywhere. I think we're in 5 countries now with employees. So that's kind of fun. So most of the work we do is really related around wireless. I just got out of a T-Mobile meeting. So there's all these wireless carriers, and that's kind of our expertise. And we build back office system for them. So if you go to your wireless account, you log in your My Account, we may have built it. And then the other side of it, in 2008, we started search engine optimization, and we also do SEM. We manage Google ad accounts and so on, 6-7 figure budgets a month. So that's all fun. We do have to, I just throw Jennifer on here. She's my favorite person in the world. We have a few Steamboat clients. Most everything we do is national brands and companies. So the focus of up today, the topic that I was given is probably about 6 classes, about 2 hours each. So trying to get this into one sort of webinar, really for any type of website here that any of you may have, the most important thing still, even though Google keeps changing their algorithms, is the search engine optimization. And, it's not really hard. We call it best practices. There's just things you just have to do. And if you do those things and you kind of keep up with it, it's something you can do on your own. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it, though we like it when people do. But it just isn't a big lift if you get it right and keep it right. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So really, I think these are the things that are the best, easiest takeaways for you to be able to go back and kind of help yourself. So my outline is quickly, what is SEO, or the most important on-page elements, keyword research, which again could be a whole nother session. And then just things that you always hear about, you should do, like my page load speed and, what SEO tools should I use? And then the important one, again, that would be another session, will be ADA guidelines. Good or bad, we're seeing a lot of ambulance chasers out there on websites now. And, it's good that we want to make them accessible. It's just bad that they're just looking for places where you drop the ball, because it's almost impossible to get it perfect. So just be aware that they're out there. So this is one of my favorite definitions of SEO. So kind of the what, why, and how. Really, it's very simple. You just want to improve your website rankings and search engines. And so, there are many search engines. We all talk about Google. Google's the one people use the most still. Bing would be probably the next one. We find the Bing audience tends to trend older than the Google audience, which is really interesting. So we have some wireless carriers that focus on the senior market. So, they want a phone that they only make, 10 minutes of calls on. I fall, I got up, it's got an emergency button on it, big buttons and that kind of thing. And we do great on Bing with that because it trends more to that older audience. The reason is because when they get a computer, if they still have computers, and they're probably the only people still buying computers because they have the flip phones, and we sell a lot of flip phones, is that it comes with being installed because it's probably Microsoft, and they don't change it. So it's not rocket science. The why is we just want to get more traffic to your website, and the how is, and this is the most important thing, fulfilling user search needs in terms of relevance, content quality, and user experience. So we're going to run through this list of things here. And so please ask any questions. I'll show you some examples. We'll look at some tools. So I won't just read my little PowerPoint here. So the most important thing with your website is page relevance. Google still today puts, and Bing as well, puts all the emphasis on is how relevant is your website and your page compared to all the other websites when they search for things to do in Steamboat. You know, what is the most relevant page? And that's where we're going to take them. So that's why it's real important to understand what are people looking for? How are they searching for you? So we'll talk about primary keywords and secondary keywords, but the really most useful and relevant results, that is what's going to get you there. And so the easiest thing to do is understand on every page, what is the title of the page? What is the description of the page? What is your H1, H2 tags, and what is the content? And so we see a lot of websites where on the home page, they'll talk about everything under the sun and nothing's relevant. So Google has no idea what this website's about. So for, you know, your radio station website, it's very straightforward. You know, this is who we are, this is what we do, we focus on news and Steamboat. And so, you know, you want to make sure that relevant is very defined. And so we'll talk more about how we get there. But that is, you know, there's probably 2 or 3 good takeaways, and that one is the biggie. So does everybody know, do you use WordPress? Do you do your own website? Do you update your own websites?
A little.
A little.
We're in the process of overhauling our whole thing, but it will be a WordPress.
Right. So the nice thing about WordPress, I can say a lot of bad things about it, but I say a lot of good things about it, is that you can use a tool like Yoast. It has built in. So when I talk about like page titles, so when you go to a website, you'll see it'll have like a page title. And then when you Google a website, so let's do, anybody have a particular product or service they offer?
With childcare.
Childcare.
I know. They come up.
So when you Google, there's a thing called search engine. So these are your search engine results, or SERP. And so, come on, let's find a seat. Yeah, come on. Yeah. So you can see that the browser used my location. So it's giving mostly local results. So that's great. And then we have all these results. And so the title that you see, childcare and babysitting options in Steamboat, is the title of a page of the site. And then when it says Steamboat resort childcare, kids lessons, blah, 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 then that's the description. And so that's that's a metadata in every page of your website. And so you want that to be unique and pretty much be what people search for. And so I just got to, and I'll send you the PowerPoint, and I'll send you a PDF actually and distribute it. And so I got some little rules in here, some tips about page titles and characters and links, and those are all just recommendation. What happens on page titles, make it too long, Google will just cut it off. They have a new algorithm that'll actually change it a little bit, which is kind of bizarre. But they think they're smarter than us. And then so in that case, then the target keyword was childcare, right? And so you can see how those match up, and the results there. And then we have local businesses. And so I don't know if you use, so if you have a local business provides local services, then you want Google My Business, you want to have your Google Places, have all that be up to date. That's a whole nother day.
I mean, is it still the same where the more Google products you pull in, the better they'll
So what do you mean by
rank
Google
it? Well,
products?
like if you use their analytics, if you use,
No, it's not really
Maps,
related.
if
Yeah,
you-
not really. So, you know, the reality is that they're the biggest search engine in the world, right? And they're indexing all the time. The advantage tools to use is really Google Search Console. So that's the most important one to use. So like when you make updates to your website, which most people don't do, but there's a thing on your website called a sitemap. It's a sitemap file, and then you can go into Google Search Console and submit it, and it will automatically re-index your pages right then. But Google Search Console is probably the best information about your website. Google Analytics, the same thing. And of course, we just had the mess with GA4. So I don't know if everybody's gone through that headache or not yet. And then the other part of the website is then that matches up there to show relevance. Let's go to one of these. So then you can see then, so they're childcare and babysit options steamboat. So that's an H1 tag. So their page title says childcare in it, their description says childcare in it, and their H1 tag says childcare in it. So it's pretty obvious that that's what's most relevant about this page. And that works. It works. If you go through your website and you just make these simple changes and what's the most relevant thing on that one page, and line up your page title, your description, your H1 tag, and then in the content, say something about childcare, Google will be very happy. You will be very happy with results. And so I include some little stuff in here, you know, about, and one of the things you run into, especially with clients like T-Mobile or Assurance Wireless, is that, you know, marketing wants to do all this great marketing. You know, they craft content and say things in ways that nobody ever imagined. You know, they're wordsmith. And then the SEO team, which is us, goes, well, time out. There's nothing about childcare in any of this. You're talking about how wonderful everything it is you do, but we've got to work that in there. So you got to find a balance. You don't want to just stuff the content with your keywords, but you've got to have it be a part of it. You can't do great on your page title, your meta description, your H1, and then your content, you know, you talk about something unrelated to your topic. It has to be the same. If you have more to talk about, then you should have another page, and you should link to then have more to talk about, because then that extends the depth of your content. But don't try to be everything. And that was kind of a trend, you know, for a while when WordPress really became popular, was all these one-page websites. So you literally had everything about the business, all your services in one long, super long scrolling page, which then in mobile became literally impossible. Nobody ever made it to the bottom of your page in mobile, right? So it's always better than to link away, and there's some really great value there, which I'll talk about here in just a minute.
And you used to be able to embed or something like that.
Well, so that was in the old days. If we go back in, so people would think, I got a white background. I got a white background. I'll put in all this white text with all these run-ons of words. No, it doesn't
None of
matter.
it, okay.
And that's good that it's gone away. And again, that's a part of that, you know, you just don't want to just jam as many keywords in there. And we used to say, you know, what are your primary keywords? And then your primary keywords on a really great, most relevant page would just have one or a keyword phrase, you know, childcare and babysitting, you know, those are related. And Google, because it uses semantic searching, can figure out that childcare and babysitting is the same thing, right? You know, you literally don't have to say every which way that there is to say childcare. You can literally just say childcare, and if somebody searches for babysitting, if that applies to your business, it might find it, because that's just the way their algorithms work. But don't stuff your keywords in your page. It'll just it won't go very far. Though we still get asked about it. Okay, so now this is the biggie, lots of words here. So I just mentioned semantic search and natural language processing. So everybody's talking about AI and all these things and wonderful copy develops and content and all that. That's still not quite there yet. I mean, writing your own copy, you know your business better than anybody. You know the service you offer, you know your customer, you should know your customer, you know your audience. And so by going in and doing in the absolute best, easiest ways to figure out sort of, you know, your keywords is just go to Google. And we do this still all the time. We'll make PDFs and pages and pages and pages of searches that we did for. And so you can see when I type in, right? So Google already is taking like here are, when somebody searches for car wash, all the different sort of, and these are local results. These are results based on in your area. I mean, that's how fast their algorithm is. And so right here is already a great list of keywords that they apply for you. Let me go back to the childcare again. I can spell. Or not. CH. Make it 2 words. So here's already a start of a great keyword list. I mean, I didn't go to SEMrush, I didn't spend any money. I just go to Google and say, hey, tell me sort of what's going on. So that's very cool. And then we'll touch base here in a little bit of some of the other things, like people also ask. It's very cool. So, you know, you don't have to spend a ton of money, but then, so you define the relevance for that page. And then in your content, again, and this goes on and talks a lot about, which is sort of my favorite subjects, is that, you know, writing good copy is really about sort of looking into the mind of your consumer. What are they thinking? What are they looking for? You know, the biggest way to be successful is to understand your customers' pain points. You know, it's not what you offer to them. It's not about, this is the greatest service we ever there, and nobody has it better. It's about, I understand that you are looking to resolve this issue. I understand that childcare is really hard to get, and this is how we're going to make your life easier. And that's how people search. And how many times have you gone and searched and done, how do I do this? How do I do that? What about this? Is there anything close to me like that? That's how people are using Google. We call those long tails. And so your content should address those questions. So maybe your H1 was childcare, but then your H2s, like subparagraphs, might be about, is childcare affordable? Is there childcare near me? Can I have half-day childcare? Whatever you think those questions are. And that's what, and Google really looks to that, because then that means that you're sort of expanding on your topic, right? You're creating more content that has helped what people are looking for. Because Google swears their algorithms are all about helping people find what they need as soon as they can find it. That's their, and taking millions of dollars from you.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's sentences that have been-
Yeah, because we do all these Google Ad accounts and we see it. So this is a really cool one. So I talked a minute ago about if you have a relevant page, but then there's another topic that also deserves more information. So don't add it to that page, create another page, and then use anchor links. So anchor links is just simply linking within your website from one page to another page. And Google loves this. Any website that we sort of help them with their SEO and they don't have any internal links, just getting their metadata right, this is the best practice stuff, and adding the anchor links, adding the interlinks on the site, they bounce right up. It is an immediate bounce. These companies that say, we can get you on the top of the page like immediately, that's the first thing they do. It doesn't last forever, but it works right then. It's really good, but it's also because Google is looking for, this is relevant content, and then there's more relevant content, and then there's more relevant content. It's useful for the user. And they might come in on the second page of that, and then they link either the first or maybe a third, right? So, I mean, you build this spider web on your own website. And it is always a home. It's a very easy thing for you to do. You go through, you look, and say, wait a minute, maybe we could do this on 2 pages. We link across, or maybe you have an FAQ section you're linking to. Maybe you have a customer service page, a page about shipping. You know, there's all these things on your website that are standalone pages. How do we interlink them to show that there's continuity? And that's more of that semantically related stuff as well. No questions? Come on, that's all good stuff there.
Quick question.
Yep.
So when you were saying that your content should be, you know, people are looking for childcare and
Right.
not like the marketing fancy.
Well, I'm saying there needs to be a balance,
Yeah.
because you're gonna have the marketing, you know, you want to engage them. You want to draw them in, you want them to like your brand.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, you know, we have hundreds of pages on our website. We're a local history museum.
This is the Pioneer Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the one that we went and did, and like an hour later, Screaming Frog said, help, there's like 30-some thousand links on your website.
Exactly. That's a perfect segue. So, you know, what someone might be looking for out as a consumer is not necessarily that predictable for us because we are such a content-rich, wide
Absolutely.
site.
Right.
And so, I know this is probably not applicable for everyone, but do you have recommendations? And obviously we can go offline on this, on how someone who's, you know, like you may not know, for instance, the word exhibit. You may
Right.
not know that as a person. You're just looking for something to do in Steamboat Springs or an attraction in Steamboat Springs.
I want to know when Bugs Warner was an Olympian.
Exactly. And so that may or may not come up, but point being, just do you have recommendations when we have so much content that we actually are stating it pretty, you know, succinctly, but then how do we get to a user who may not know how to word it when they're searching?
Right, well, that's a challenge, and we talked a little about this. So, you know, 'cause you're like on the SiteWorks big CMS site, and it automates, you know, doing all these things and making all these interconnection in the photos, and it's awesome. It's a brilliant platform. But then sort of what could be missing are these sort of lead in or target pages. A lot of times, you know, and you guys may not do a lot of SEM, but you know, sort of landing page stuff. What is it that people are going, and how do you build up those pages that are really a higher value for sort of what's happening now, what's trending now? So that would change over time, right? What was a popular thing at museum 2 years ago may not be what's popular now. So how do you stay on top of that and create those sort of pages for that purpose? And that's really what would best benefit you, is to have these, you know, relevant pages for these kind of current hot topics. And you can know that through Google Analytics, right? You can look and see what are the most popular pages. You know, you can go in and see, and then do I need more content? Do I need to split that content up? What are the search keywords? SEMrush is a great tool for that, knowing exactly what keywords people are using to get to the website. And then how do you define that and then develop that content through that? Because you've got, you know, Google thinks that, you know, you guys are great. You've got so much content, but from the user point of view, it may be that it's harder to get to it. You know, we've always had kind of this 2-click rule. How do you get to what the user wants most in 2 clicks, right? And as the website gets bigger, it's much harder because you got to be more predictive. But that's one way to do it, just stay up with your analysis of the website and then create that new content. And some of them may be there, it may just be a matter of being defined. But that's a tough one. So the anchor links thing, does that kind of make sense? We're just sort of expanding our content and interlinking in between. It's home run, it's a huge hitter. All right, so this is my least favorite thing, but if I don't include this slide, then everybody says, well, what about EAT, which is now EAT? So there's this thing that Google does that, and if you haven't heard of it, that's great because it's so boring. But so they actually have people out there that are quality raters, and supposedly Google listens to them, which I really find hard to believe. But and their algorithms, and so EAT is something that basically, and especially if you do websites like based on well-being, on fitness, on we can make your life better, you can lose weight, you know, these, you know, there's all these sort of wellness things going on. It's critical in that area. So if you're in that area, you really have to understand it. If you're really a brand and a service or e-commerce website or a museum or something, it's really just not as much as important. But it stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so what it means is that supposedly one of the things, a part of being relevant, is that your content meets these things. You can't promise the moon and you're not be able to deliver it, right? You got to be able to sort of show in your content that you truly understand the subject, and you know, you can annotate it, you know, have references, appendixes, blah, blah, blah. So we can throw that slide away if nobody has an interest in it. All right, so this is the biggie for me. So content that answers, so people also ask. And so we saw that a minute ago, right? People also ask. This is such a great, easy tool to use. I mean, Google literally says, hey, what are the most popular things that people are asking right now? So we did childcare. And Google, through the semantic reasoning, associates nanny costs, because that is, but we were sort of looking for, I was looking for being able to drop my kids off over here, right? And Google says, but what about the nanny thing? So this is a really easy way to see, and I have no idea how much is daycare a month in Arizona. We caught Google at not doing a very good job, did we? But that's the most, Arizona and California, those are big issues. So maybe I'm in Colorado, so maybe I should look at, opening a market up in Arizona, California. Those are the biggest people also ask. The other one, that's a freebie that Google gives you. So we got videos, so the most popular videos coming up. We have related searches. And then this one didn't come up with very many. These are types of early childhood, but when you scroll down the bottom of the page, you'll start seeing these other ways that people search. And so Google started this thing, which is making all this crazy. So it used to be Google's results and search and result pages was 1 through 10. And so everybody wanted to be 1 through 3. And so the ads were typically 1 through 3, and then 7 through 10 was great. And then 11 through 20 was second page, 21 through 30 is third, and so on. So Google said, we'll fix that. We'll just have an infinite scroll. And we'll just, because nobody ever clicks on the next page. So we'll just start showing all the results that we can. So now if somebody talks to you about SEO, they say, we're going to get you in the top 10. Forget it, it doesn't exist anymore. So we say kind of above the fold. And so, your Google ads is going to put you above the fold. Your Google My Business is going to put you above the fold. And you can already see that in this case, go up to the very top. Guess we're there. So, we have an ad, which is paid, Steamboat Ski Resort, which is huge. We have people also ask, Steamboat Lodging Company, which does a really nice job. That's a really well-designed page for SEO. Government, of course, more organizations, Colorado, of course, videos, who owns YouTube, it's Google. And then images. So this is a pretty tough nut to crack, childcare. As far as I'm a small business and I want to be there. So there's a Facebook presence. There's some Yelp. And the old town hot springs back here. So
Alt tags, I know there's other reasons, accessibility reasons for using alt tags, but on your photos and stuff,
Mhm.
but does that also count in your keyword life?
yeah, the next slide.
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah. So let me just finish this up and then we'll get the alt tags. So if you really want to help your website, you've done your keyword, you've got it nailed down, and the next step is the long tail, is just go into that. You can just grab what people are searching for and then figure out how to work that in your content. Do I need to do a page? Do I need to have a page now about nannies? And maybe we don't have nannies, but we offer childcare. So we have a page that says, hey, nannies are great. This is why childcare is better. This is why we're better at it. This is what we're the option for doing that. Google is giving you the answers you need. We haven't even looked at SEMrush, which we spend so much time in, or Ahrefs, or Screaming Frog, or all these other tools that you pay for. Google is giving you the answers. You'll just, look and then pick and choose through it. It's very cool. So I mentioned the hyperlinks up above as being low-hanging fruit. That's like bomb. This is the other one. The alt text tag is just go through every image on your website. If you can do it, it's easy to do in WordPress, and just add descriptive text to it. And then make sure the descriptive text is relevant on that page. So we're talking about childcare, and we have a picture of a child caregiver in the classroom or in the nursery, whatever. As long as we say childcare, we get our keyword in there. That's going to be beneficial. And it is 100% just easy peasy. Everybody misses that one, but it truly buttons up that relevance link. It dots all the I's for you. And then, of course, in our effort to be more accessible, ADA friendly, it's absolutely a must. For somebody using a computer that's set up for the visually impaired, it'll read out the text on that image. If you don't have text there, they have no idea there's anything on their screen. So that's a very good reason as well.
We can talk about how many words to use and what kinds of words to use. With childcare, it's really easy again.
Yeah, so that's the hard part. And with alt text, there really isn't a limit. But we usually say phrases, not sentences. So, so how much would you say about, here is an experienced childcare teacher with her 5-year-olds? That's probably pretty long. But to say that, a paragraph worth of stuff would be really too long. So phrases is bad role. So between this, if you just go back and make sure all your metadata is great, the page title, the description, the H1 tag, it's in my content, I added some links, and I did this, you're gonna get a jump pretty quickly in your SEO. Google will love it.
Going back to the accessibility part of
Uh-huh.
that though, like if she's using photos as part of to tell the story,
Right.
then.
Well,
would it
typically
be-
you
would it
don't,
make
though. I
more
mean-
sense to-
Right, so what we see happens a lot as far as images on a website is that because there's all these free stock photos now, they're sort of relevant, but not 100%. It's just a nice stock photo, like especially go like business website. It's so just annoying, so they got this shot of people that of course don't work there, that, are pretty people in California somewhere, and it just, doesn't really reflect. But in the alt text ad, you can say whatever, right? I mean, so you can make it relevant. But it's better to have images that are truly, extend the flow of the conversation of the content. I mean, that's the images that you want. But and again, being old school, content is king has been a saying around since, the late 90s. And that's still true. So many websites are over designed, but then they're not a good user experience because they don't have the content that came to Facebook for. So I guess my answer is, it's still better to have great copy than it is have a lot of pictures. But it's nice to have a little picture once in a while, cool little graphic, a nice little icon. And even in the icons and stuff, if you have a cute little icon, it should have some text about it. Okay. But that's an easy one. You can go through your website and knock that out this afternoon. And then, this is a little bit more on the technical side. We don't see this a lot with the WordPress sites and stuff, a lot of the custom sites we do. So there's a thing called schema markup, this thing called rich snippets. This is just ways under the hood to tell Google sort of what's going on with your site and what you think is most important. I doubt if any of you are probably doing this. I don't know. Maybe you are. It's something to look into. Your markup might have it built in. I'm guessing it does with your CMS. So I won't spend a lot of time here, but there are ways to, and I didn't see any pop up when I did the child care example. But you could literally, I'm sure you've seen searches where it's like, no, not here. So in the listing, there'll be like all these other categories down here. You've probably seen it, why do they have expanded? Whether you're using markup, tell Google the most important things about our business is this, and this, and then it'll just display them. It's cheating, but it works. So we do that for most of our clients. All right. So that was kind of all the best practice stuff. So when I got on schedule, ran through that fairly quickly, but again, it's not hard. I mean, for any basic website, you can go in and just say, hey, what's my page title? The description, does it really say what I want to say about my business? Because that's how they're seeing it when they go and they see me and 4 other businesses in the search engine result pages. Is that really what I wanted to say? Get support to qualify for free childcare in Colorado, apply for blah, 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 blah. Is that really what I want to say? Is it marketing enough? Is it SEO enough? It's just, and you can see how Google bolds child space care and child care is one word. These guys are being tricky. They were thinking, aha, I better do it both ways. Google doesn't care. Those child care is child care, whether it's spelled either way, capitals, lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter. But they intentionally did that. I bet you dollars don't that. But it's not necessary. But the biggie then is to be able to do all that wonderful stuff, you really have to understand what keywords to use, right? And for a typical business marketing website, that's really, it doesn't have to be hard. We can use Google to get there. I think I sort of beat that one to death already, but I listed here, using the SERP, the search and result pages, uses the people also ask related searches. And then if you want to get into some of the other tools, they are out there. We rely a lot on them because, we like to do lots of reporting. So, Google Analytics, we'll get into that tools in a minute, but where it is. So just a few things here. Does everybody know what their authority score is for their website? What your domain authority is? So this is how Google sort of rates you. So this is for Assurance Wireless, which is T-Mobile. And if anybody here on your own website, if you get like a score in the 50s, you are rock star status. Probably your websites are going to be, if it's a pretty new website, it's going to be in the low teens. If you've got a website established for a year or two and you've done a good job, the SEO it might be in the 20s or 30s. It's relative to the marketplace that you're in, with other people and you're competing, who the Google sees as being relative to you. But it's one of the things that, we look at a lot, because when we're doing SEO for a company and they're paying us, then that's their goal, is they want 305 spin to get that authority score up. They want the domain authority to kind of keep crawling up. And it's a very, very hard job. I think we were in the 40s when we took over this one, and I don't know we'll ever get to 53. Because they just, this is in a program called SEMrush. There's other ways to do that though. And there is a free version of SEMrush. I don't know if you don't know it. It's SEMrush and Ahrefs are probably the two biggest as far as this kind of sort of figuring out what's going on your website. SEMrush is absolutely the best. We've used it now for 12 or 13 years. And it gives you a lot of tools. They have a free version that gives you some fun stuff. If you're on Twitter, they have the greatest Twitter feed of anybody out there. If you just follow SEMrush, SEMrush, and they have tips all the time. I mean, it's just like they're just giving it away because they want to be the biggest. They are the biggest. So there's just things that we use, for analyzing backlinking, organic search traffic, keywords, knowing about keywords, how our organic position changes. And this is just all the basic stuff. I mean, organic competitors, blah, blah, it just goes on and on. But this is our key, and we use this a lot for, looking at current keywords, looking at traffic analytics. If I go back here, so like monthly we'll do for most of our clients, we'll do this. Let's see now. But we'll do like competitive keyword analysis. So if you're doing Google ads and stuff, it's really important to understand keywords, because not only are you're buying keywords to help your business, your competitors are also buying keywords to help their business against you. Here we go. So like in this particular area, so we got our main competitors, and we want to see all these keywords. So Assurance Wireless, we have like 60,000 keywords out there, and Feeling gets 49,000, and so on. And then we look and see where our overlaps, and which competitors are using our keywords, what opportunities are out there where they're not using a keyword but we are, and all that fun stuff. So if you want to get to that level, then you have to use data analytic tools. And then, so this is really cool. So then we look at keywords. So this is what I talk about shared. So these are all the keywords that like all the competitors we can look at. So this is like the ranking for Assurance Wireless. So Assurance Wireless is, you probably heard a lot about it now. It's actually government saying a big deal with free government phones. So they're number one in all these. Their competitor Q-Link is 2, they're 7, they're 5, they're 4, and so on. And we can see where they rank, you can see keyword volume, and we can even go to the web page directly for that keyword, somebody else, and see how they're using the content. So, that's probably more than what you guys are looking for, possibly, but it's out there and it's cool, because that's the greatest thing about search engine marketing and SEO is all the data is there. It's there. It doesn't lie. It's not like, when we did traditional marketing and, you have, you pay basically for eyeballs based on what the magazine subscription told you how many people might see your ad on page 67. We know exactly how many eyeballs see everything. It may take us a little bit to get data, but it's just all there. There's no hiding. It's not a business you can be in and say, yeah, you're doing this, because we can tell you exactly what you're doing. The other thing you probably heard a lot about is Core Web Vitals. That's how fast your content loads. It's not as big a deal as Google started out making it. So, does anybody remember AMP pages? Ever heard of AMP pages? So, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, Google said every website's got to have AMP pages. So AMP pages were these little mini pages for every page in your website. And nobody did it except the big publishing companies because they made them do it. And so the reason Google was doing AMP pages, the reason they're doing Core Web Vitals, and they want your page to load faster so you don't have bloated images and you're optimizing your website, is because they only have so much hosting resources. That's their biggest expense. It's all these bloated websites, billions of pages of bloated web pages. And they want you to make them smaller and faster so they don't have to pay for that. So it's economics on their side. You probably heard about the little Twitter thing that they're actually getting a bunch of grief now from Amazon, who hosts their Twitter, because it's bloated. So if you have an interest in this, so it's very easy. If you use Google Search Console, it'll tell you right there. In Chrome browser, you can use an extension called Lighthouse, which will tell you how your web performs. And then we like this really awesome tool. Go back to my PowerPoint. That's called .com Tools, which has a lot of great tools. And I can show you a quick example of it, maybe. I know this is boring stuff, but it's the nerd in me that likes it. So we do all these. So most of our clients every month we run them. Page load test tells them how fast their page is loading. And then so we can give them all these details on like bits of the screen and how fast it's loading. Mobile is real important. So literally all this, everything on the web page takes time. And so we analyze all this stuff and how long it takes and can we make it load faster and blah, blah, blah. This is the process loading and what part of the screen. And so based on this analysis for them, we actually rebuilt all of this so that it went from being about an 8-second load to being a 3-second load. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you're a consumer on your mobile phone, you're trying to order something and it takes you 8 seconds to get there versus 3 seconds, that's probably some lost sales. So all those kind of tools are out there. Any question on Core Vitals? Anybody really care? I mean, it's there. If you have a big website, it's probably a big deal for you guys. But it's easy enough to find out how it's performing. You need to do that, but that would be a concern on and you guys, the chamber, you guys think about it all the time, right? All right, and then go to SEO tools. So we talked about Google Analytics. So as you know, as of July 1, Google Analytics no longer exists. So I was on a call this morning with T-Mobile and some big shot at Google. And so T-Mobile pays like probably over $1 million a year to Google to use the thing called Google 360. So because they're all big paying customers, Google decided we're going to kill off all your small business Google Analytics July 1. But for all our big paying customers, we're going to make it July 1 now, 2024. I gave them another year. And they're even giving us 40 hours. Google is paying us 40 hours to sort of help Assurance figure out that it's like, I mean, it's just, anyway, it's Google. So, but you should have, so your Google Analytics now, if you're using just GA, it's not going to work anymore. You have to convert your website to GA4. If you go to Google Analytics, you will see that they may have converted it for you. So let me find a client that probably isn't. I know this is not, they don't use this website. So you get this warning up here that says property is scheduled to stop processing data very soon. I thought it was 6 days ago. Right. And you need to change the GA4.
What's the difference?
So the difference is that Google decided there's a better way to handle all this data. And so it's completely different. So right now, literally, when you do a report before July 1, you did a report in Google Analytics and you went to export it, it was kind of in rows and columns, very easy to understand. So they've come up with these sort of relational things because it takes less data storage. And so it literally is apples and oranges. There's nothing compatible about it. And that's why they have to cut it off and say, we can no longer support GA because we're just not going to. So if you haven't done that yet, the only thing that's going to happen is that when you go to like we have clients like Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they got to give a report to the State Tourism Division, like this is our website the day we did last year, because the money you gave us for our website helped us do better compared to the year before. Well, unless they exported that data, we actually did it for them in this case, but before July 1, it's just not going to be there. So you're going to get to the end of the year, you're going to go to Google Analytics, you're going to do all this to make it work, and then the data won't be there prior to July 1.
So how do we do this on our own? I mean, we don't want to pay a company, like if we go into our website.
Yeah, so you can go in, so if you choose this complete GA4 up, it's just going to do it by default.
Okay, thank you.
It's not the best choices. So we have like a little cheat sheet of things that we do. For instance, it'll only like track data for it's less than a month. And so if you want to remember longer, there's a little place you can kind of drill down a little bit on findings. I keep my data basically forever. And so there's little changes you need to make to it, but by default, it'll go ahead and set it up. And then it also wants you to use Google Tag Manager. So if you're not using Google Tag Manager, they did finally decide they're going to have a new little standalone tag that they're going to let you use. But it's a pain in the butt because then you got to put it on every page too. If you're using Google Tag Manager, it's pretty easy to make the update. If you're not, it's a little bit more complex. But they did come out with this about 3 or 4 months ago, this sort of auto setup thing. We just went through, we had about 60 some WordPress websites, and we just went through it and converted them all in the last 3 weeks. So that was kind of the pizza task for my guys, was to, at the end of the day, do another 5, do another 5, do another 5. And then for the bigger, like I said, the bigger clients, they're just, Google's bending over backwards to make sure they're not pissed.
Can you talk about Google Ads? I know for nonprofits, there's like $10,000 a month that's grants available to do Google Ads, but then you need to hire somebody to set these ads up.
So Google has these programs to where they'll allow you to hire a consultant, if not one of their people, to do that stuff. For every business, there's $500 available at any time. Sign up for Google Ads and get $500 of ads. But to then pay a consultant, they have then a grant process. So it's out there.
And do you think it's worth it for all this? I mean, is this what they're doing, is figuring out?
No, they're not doing the GA4 though. That's a different group.
No, I'm saying, will all
Google Ads.
searches improve because somebody's been working from the inside on Google Ads for you?
Well, so our philosophy there is that if you do all your best practices first, then you're gonna have better results with Google Ads. We've seen clients come in and they're just throwing money at Google Ads thinking they can just buy the top 3 results, right? But there's still the relevant factor. So a Google ad is an auction. And then so you're competing against everybody else is doing that same auction on that same keyword. And so you have a better chance of winning that auction by quality word score. And that's based on your Google ad relevance. So if you have childcare and you're killing it, and then you do a Google ad with childcare, you're gonna have a better chance of winning that auction, and even for a lower rate. So if you have a bunch of really poor SEO websites bidding on the same keyword for Google ad, it's gonna be outrageous. Or more competition, like for a free government phone, Assurance Wireless spends over $1 million a month on Google ads to get that rate. Yeah. It's so bad.
Well, and so do you recommend like kind of optimizing your website, seeing what's happening with the keywords? that you
Absolutely,
should
first.
Figure out a couple
Right.
months down the line, like these keywords are working, these aren't, so we should maybe retool things before we go to Google Ads with that. keyword.
Absolutely, because so the cool thing is, by doing all that first, is that you've created your keyword list. So now you have keywords that you know that work. You're not just throwing money at it. And there's kind of two reasons to use Google Ads. One, of course, is to get more people to your website. And what we do is basically sales lead gen, right? We're trying to figure out who the qualified audience is and how do we give them the website. And you can use Google Ads for keywords that you're not very strong in, that your competitor is more strong in. And then so when you do a Google ad, you set the target CPA and you say, I'm willing to spend this much money on this keyword because I know that I don't compete as well as my other keywords. So my other keywords, I don't want to bid very much at all because I know I'm strong in those. And so then that saves gives you more for, bang for your buck, right? For your Google ad spend. We want to have our best keywords not cost a lot of money, but then we might spend more for Google for ads keywords that we are not quite as competitive with. And we see that all the time because when you bid on a competitor keyword, you can't put like Assurance Wireless can't put SafeLink into their ads. I mean, Google doesn't allow you to put your competitors. You can't say I'm better than SafeLink and then use that as a keyword. So when you need a competitor keywords, you have very low quality keyword score because you're not going to put their name on. So you're not going to pay relevant to SafeLink, right? So you just spend more on it. And so, so we do CPAs on our competitor campaigns are much higher because we have such low quality keyword scores. But in your really good primary keywords, you should be in really good shape. And that's a whole other day for people to see. So the other thing, so we talked about Google Search Console. So every website has access to Google Search Console. So just Google Search Console, go there. It may ask you the first time to put in your domain. It might ask you to put a little code on your website, depending on how you're wanting to use it. But everybody should use Google Search Console. It is a freebie from Google. Take advantage of it. It's probably the best information on your website out there. I don't know if it's still that low. Yeah, here it is. So it'll inspect URLs, you can upload XML pages, it'll tell you what pages are fast. It'll help you build your little sitemap for your website, it'll show you traffic. This is sort of Google's gift to you. So this is one of those Google tools that we're using in-house. It just makes a lot of sense.
And you get to Google Search Console through your website or through Google to your website?
Yeah, you got to go to Google first.
Got to go to Google
Yeah,
first.
just Google Search Console.
Okay.
And it'll come there and it'll go and they make it easy. But you do have to like sort of register your
Yeah.
domain because you might have 4 or 5 different domains. So you have to have it set up one-to-one with that domain. Okay. And so we talk about Google Tag Manager. We
Do
talked about-
any of these tools assess your ADA compliance?
So there are a few out there. Wave probably does the best. They're actually out of Salt Lake City. There was a project with the University of Utah. The problem is, and so I've got a slide for that. Let me see here.
When you say ADA compliance, you mean a business?
Hi.
So
You mean like when you go into the business, is it
No, it's
disability or is there something else that you use it for?
no, I'm talking about the American Disability Act, but for websites, ADA compliance is a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. And sorry, I work for Yampa Valley Autism, and so. it's-
oh, good. So you know all about it.
So ADA is important to us.
Well, it should be important to everybody.
But
And so this is the page, and everybody says, what guidelines we use? Because so this is basically the main one, and then California has a whole nother thing on top of it. And so we do a lot of this, and it's just really a lot of stuff. So we have basically for every client, we have like a spreadsheet, and then there are all these things, and I think to be 100% is really difficult. So we have things we just know we want to do. You got to be able to cursor through the website using tab. That's a real important one. The alt text stuff. The biggie that everybody misses because they're just trying to make their website be so fancy is, deals with color. You can't put dark blue on light blue. I mean, you just can't. So, and you ask about, is there a tool out there? If you do the light The Lighthouse is the main page speed one. It will give you accessibility in the results. Let's see if I can find an example. I know we're running out of time here. Yeah, so if I scroll down, so you can see it's got, so this is using, if you use Chrome, you just Google a plugin called Lighthouse, and it's Chrome's plugin. But it'll give you your accessibility. Oh, we're so good.
Yeah.
Not so good there. And best practices in SEO, and I'll scroll down and show it to you. And it's not as detailed as the WCAG is, but it does go through and background and foreground colors. And we know that with Assurance Wireless. So T-Mobile has this big ad agency merge, and they absolutely refuse on their colors. And we just say, it's simple. Just make it white with black copy on it, or blue. Use their brand blue, but don't make it blue on blue. And that's what this one is about. It's the blue on blue thing. They refuse to change.
And John, that's mostly because it's for people who are visually impaired.
Correct.
So
This
you want to
particular,
make your website accessible to people with visual impairments.
absolutely.
That's the biggest thing, right?
That's the biggest one. But you also have mobility issues. So, they have dings in their wheelchair and they use a pencil. So they're tabbing, and that's how they move to the website, scrolling, those kind of things. So we deal with those. And then also the same way with the alt tag. It's so easy because typically on that browser, it reads it out loud, and so it tells them what it is. But this is, and I mentioned at the beginning, that there are these sort of website ambulance chasers out there now. We're seeing a lot of. But this is the main guidelines. So if you're talking to somebody about your website and you want to deal with accessibility, you just want them to, at the end of the day, when the website's done, to give you sort of their checklist of what they actually did and what complied. There's always going to be things that maybe don't quite make it. And then just like in the Assurance Wireless case, their design firm, we gave them a list. These are the things, specific examples, screen captures that have got to be changed.
So can you, I know we're almost out of time, can you just rattle off your top 3 reasons why you think WordPress is okay and top 3 reasons why you hate it?
Because we're developers, and so we can just code a lot faster than we can use WordPress. So I have 2 guys that are incredible at WordPress. WordPress for a small to medium-sized business is the best answer out there, no question. It's typically free. Anybody can use it. There are situations like we do a lot of stuff with Moots, and they're hosting help them a lot of their website, but they have some big agency that does bicycle websites, and then they did it in WordPress, and they have 17 plugins, and at least once a month one of them crashes on an update, takes down the website. John calls me and says, why is the website down? It's like, well, stop using so many plugins. Just don't use a lot of plugins. Use very minimal plugins, because every time they update, it's going to break your website most times. But all that stuff we would code in PHP or something. We just wouldn't use the plugin. But we do a lot. We've got, we're hosting probably over 60 WordPress websites now. It's great. It's fantastic. Up speed to market. We have certain templates we like that are very fast out of the box. There are certain WordPress templates that'll never be fast out of the box, and so you'll never get a good page load speed score. So just kind of, look for, is it fast? Is it lean? Can I use it? Is it an easy CMS?
Have you used any that say they're ADA compliant that?
It's just impossible.
Okay.
I think it's impossible. The only way that we know is to have the guidelines, go through it, identify things individually, and that's the only way that we know to get there.
Okay.
In the case of Assurance Wireless, then we've got to submit that to T-Mobile, and they have an accessibility team, and they have their own opinion on it. It's kind of subjective. Some of that.
And there's a million different.
There's so many
disabilities
different
that you
things.
can be looking at.
Yeah, well, it's just like
Flashing
video.
things on the street for
Right.
sensory people is.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a huge gambit, but it's cool. But like videos, it's so hard to make compliant. But if you want to be really compliant, you just have a video. So there's just all these kind of things like that. Let me see what my last slide was, in case I left anything wonderful out here. Nope. All right. Any other quick questions or anything?
Are you able to be, so this is obviously a lot of information.
Yeah.
And
The tip of the iceberg.
the majority of us are probably non-trained like you, handling websites, marketing and everything in between. Do you recommend like hiring a company like yours and say, hey, take a look at my tags, look at SEO?
So we do a lot of that kind of
Just kind of like do the,
an evaluation,
Yeah.
what do you need, where you're at. We do that quite a bit, for most websites, it's not a heavy lift. We have the tools, we can do it, like, I was gonna do your website and it was like an hour running Screaming Frog for 30-some thousand results to have to look through. But for most websites, it's not a very big deal, but again, it's the best practice though. I mean, it's honestly, it's that simple initially, and then I kind of got and showed you sort of the bigger picture stuff. But that's not necessary for most websites. Just using Google and Bing, doing search engine result pages, you can learn so much about your business and your audience. I mean, the information, and even in like that Lighthouse tool for page speed, that's really cool because what Google is always taking all this information from everybody all the time, right? To their advantage, they make money off of it. But when they show you those results, that's based on everybody that's ran that test on their website, how users and the effects. So you're getting a rating of millions of others tests that have been run. I mean, it's so cool to have that data. I mean, you would spend millions to have that data in-house years ago, as a company, for your business intelligence. And Google's just giving it to you. So, and that's really the first big step. But then a company like ours, we just come in and do an evaluation and say, here's the pieces. And then, we usually recommend like a 3-month plan because it takes really about 3 months to make major changes. That includes, getting all the technical stuff right, getting all the meta stuff right, getting all your Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager set up, and then looking at content, making content recommendations, either developing it or telling you what to develop, and then making sure it's all working in the hand. That's kind of our normal process.
what's the pricing like for that? Can you speak to that? And
It depends on every website's different. I'm not copying out. It's just different depending, like this one here, it would take 4 to 5 hours just to get the initial analysis. On a normal website, you can do it in an hour or two. Figure that out. And then we just started, we're gonna do the Sacramento Kings as a new store they're coming out with. And so we're gonna do the SEO on that. And it's always waiting on the other side. And they just can't get it done, they can't get it done, they can't get it done, but as soon as they do, and it's actually in Shopify, it's real interesting. So then we'll evaluate and make sure all those pieces are in place. The Shopify's got all these goofy things where they hide H1 tags and stuff to Google, and so we can go through and make recommendations and fix those things. And then Jennifer Baker, she's got it's a WordPress website, and then we hooked up WooCommerce for her so she can actually sell her stuff online. So that's worked out really well. And that's just simple. It's not a big leap. That's it. Is it okay? All right.
Thank you guys for coming. I just want to remind everybody too that the third session is with Molly Caniglio. Again, she did her first one on a Canva tutorial. They offer a free version for everybody, but nonprofits especially, you can get the premium features by just applying as a nonprofit and it'll be free. And Canva, if you haven't used it, can help with marketing campaigns, it can help with like PowerPoints, it can help with presentations, it can basically do a lot of your formatting and it's really user friendly. So join us for that. It's on July 26th from 2 to 3 and it's virtual. You can also get the recording. So thank you guys and thank you, John.
Oh,
It's super helpful. I will send out the slides and the recording. And if you guys have questions, you have to.
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.